I was back on the road in the morning, leaving Anchorage. I was ahead of schedule on this road trip, so I decided to head south and visit Whittier before I crossed the interior to my winter destination. I had planned to visit Whittier after the winter, but I had the chance to go earlier than expected, and I took this opportunity to do so. The only thing I knew about in this direction was Portage and Whittier, but along the drive I found a couple of surprises not often talked about in Alaskan road trip videos. The first surprise I came across was Bird Point. It was a high boardwalk that when you stood on it, you could see over a large lake with mountains on the other side. I only stayed for about 25 minutes, but it's a place I could have stayed for much longer if not for being so unsure what other exciting places I would find on my way to Whittier. The next surprise was Beluga Point, and although it wasn't as peaceful as Bird Point was because it sat right on the Seward Highway, it's one of those places that's hard to describe despite it being a traveler's paradise. If it was the 1980s, I would have needed about 14 Polaroid cameras to get as many pictures as Beluga Point deserved. Beluga Point offered 180-degree views of Turnagain Arm. It's a popular place to look for beluga whales, and the Boar Tide is a natural phenomena. Minutes away from Beluga Point, I stopped at a very small community called Indian that is surrounded by the Chugach State Park. This would be a perfect community to live as it's only 24 miles from downtown Anchorage, and every day you left your home you would be driving straight through Beluga Point. The next surprise I came across was the Potter Marsh Wildlife Viewing Boardwalk, which is a coastal wildlife refuge for birders and other wildlife viewers. The wooden boardwalk winds over 1,500 feet from the parking area through the marsh and across watery openings and sedges. It's known to be one of the most accessible and scenic wildlife viewing areas in Anchorage. I arrived shortly after the Arctic terns and yellowlegs and trumpeter swans had already left, along with dozens of other birds that are often seen there. But I can imagine in the summertime, when the marshes are filled with wildlife, it would be a place that would not easily be forgotten. Leaving Bird Point, I drove straight to Girdwood, which has the most popular ski resort in Alaska. Girdwood was an upper-class area that has tourists year-round, with winter sports popular during part of the year, and summer sports like hiking and biking popular during the spring and summertime. An expensive place to stay, filled with a lot of tourists year-round, is not an ideal place for myself to visit or live. But if skiing and hiking is extremely important to you, you would fall in love with Girdwood. After Girdwood, I came to the abandoned town of Portage. Portage was one of those places that delivered exactly what was promised in videos you may have seen. But just like Beluga Point, it's a very difficult area to describe. The mountains surrounding Portage were gigantic and beautiful. The lakes were clear and blue. The snow that rested on top of the high mountains was the icing on the cake. And all of the side streets driving through the area were relaxing, peaceful, and enjoyable. If there was an active community out there, Portage may be one of the most unique places to live in Alaska. Minutes from Portage, I came to the famous Whittier Tunnel, also known as the Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel. It is the longest highway tunnel in North America at 2.5 miles and it was the first tunnel built designed to withstand -40 temperatures and 150 mile-per-hour winds. It's a one-lane tunnel shared by cars and trains traveling in both directions. Driving through the tunnel takes about 10 to 12 minutes, and there's a good chance you have to sit and wait outside the tunnel for about 40 minutes before entering. But the wait is worth driving through the tunnel. After all, the Whittier Tunnel is one of the only reasons anyone would drive this particular route. As soon as I exited the tunnel and entered Whittier, I immediately realized, unlike Portage, Whittier was going to disappoint me. In my observation, Whittier was not what all of the people who go to Whittier say it is. The famous Begich Towers, where everybody in the town lives, is not as pretty as the Photoshop pictures or the edited YouTube videos may make it appear. The mountains across the waters were very pretty, but other than that, the small town seemed very dark and dreary. What particularly bothered me in Whittier was there were certain areas in the town where it appeared people just left their rusted boat parts piled up. Even opposite Begich Towers, there was a large fence that was blocked off by parts of boats, and boats that appeared to have been sitting there for at least 10 years. And although along the docks was very nice, and all of the little shops along the docks were very nice, it was such a small area that during the tourist season you would have barely any space to move on the streets or on the boardwalk. Now, in all fairness, I did go there during the fall, and I am sure Whittier looks much prettier in the summertime, and I will definitely go back one summer to see the town in a different season to give it a second chance. But I'm not a big fan of crowds of tourists, and a person's first impression is very difficult to change. But I will give it another chance, if for no other reason than to drive through the Whittier Tunnel again.